then in the next county down there is St. Joe's Hospital. Sarasota Memorial Hospital, through the Public Hospital Board, has a site in Warm Mineral Springs. Aren't these enough? Is it really necessary to have another hospital?
For the time being, or at least up until this time, the studies that the County Hospital Board have performed concerning the South County have led us to feel that up to this point the facilities are adequate. The problem you have, you see, is that the district we're talking about is not just Sarasota County, but it takes in the contiguous counties south of us. And as it happens, the population is growing on the three counties rather than just on one or the other. So if we just consider Sarasota County, probably we're adequate to this point. However, looking at it as Dr. Serese has looked at it, where you're taking into account the entire population of this area, then it would seem that within a relatively short period of time, someone would be justified to have a facility. And as I said, I would think that in the next couple of years, 2-3 years, that we'd be more than justified. I mean by we, a facility would be justified in the area, yes.
Chris, I think he has raised a very important point, and I would like just briefly to add to it graphically by taking this and showing you what he's talking about. This, all up here, is only Sarasota County. And anyone who is an official from the Sarasota County Public Health Board or from the Planning Commission, etc., are only talking about this area. But when we went before the Comprehensive Health Planning Council of the entire region, and when the Bureau of Health and Rehabilitative Services in Tallahassee, which issued us a certificate of need, when all these studies were made over a period of a year and analyzed, what they were measuring in terms of health care needs was not just limited to the boundaries of Sarasota County, but they were expanded to what we call the patient shed, or the total medical service area. And it is this total area that must be considered, because diseases, I'm sure you would agree, do not recognize political boundaries. They transcend them. And we transcended them in thinking how we can bring and improve the quality of health care to this entire peninsula bounded on the Gulf and here by Mayaca River, south by Boca Grande, and north by Route 41. That's our patient shed, and we have to consider the whole thing. And in that consideration, we found that today, the total population in this area is supporting today a 94-bed hospital based upon proven Hilberton experience factors. And if you recognize that our proposed facility will take at least 2 years to build, we will be more able to support a 100-bed hospital than the population will demand, because the area is growing at the rate of 20% a year. And so we're going to be short of beds in this area. If Venice Hospital succeeds in its expansion, which we trust it must, and we encourage them to do so, and if we are allowed to build our 100-bed facility, we're going to be short of beds.
Mayor Gentle, as really the end of the line of Sarasota County, which Northport is, what are the needs of your community now? Not 2 years from now, but right now.
Well, the need of doctors and medical facilities are urgently needed now. I don't have a medical facility.
Where do you go when you get sick?
Well, our nearest hospital is either St. Joseph's in Port Charlotte, which is approximately 18 miles out, or Venice Hospital, again, between 15 and 18 miles out. If the patient has to be taken to Sarasota as one head to the other night, that you're looking now at about 30, 35 miles out, 40 miles out.
Why would a patient have to go there? Because of the facilities that these other hospitals don't have and Memorial Hospital does?
Well, in this instance, we had a patient with a head injury. We had to get a neurologist in a hurry. Venice was not able to service at that particular time, so we had to put the patient back into the ambulance and start racing for Sarasota. It's an isolated case, I agree. But when you are looking at predominantly elderly people, you have to take that as a prime consideration. I have to have medical facilities to take care of these people because there aren't any.
What would the construction of this Lemon Bay Hospital mean for the city? I understand that plans have a clinic for Northport, or
Right.
to be opened within Northport now. I don't know what this means as far as a clinic, just a dispensary, or
Well,
whether it be a sort of satellite emergency room.
It's an outpatient clinic type of facility. However, I think that engaging an outpatient clinic, I think the emphasis and the importance is hospital, because this is where you're going to have your people taken care of. An emergency clinic, fine. But if I have to have a neurologist or a surgeon, I've got to get that patient to the hospital. Now, in looking at this situation, Northport, rather than just saying we will take care of Northport, we have discounted that approach. We feel, as a city, that the obligation transcends Northport. We have an area that is not covered by a doctor, is not covered by a hospital. And in supporting Lemon Bay, I have asked the people of Northport to transcend that approach, and let's go with a community effort so that the entire area is taken care of, not just Northport.
Mm-hmm. Would you have preferred to see the county hospital build a satellite facility on its Warm Mineral Springs property? There's been a sign there for years. This has been a possibility for years.
If I would take a rather selfish and self-centered viewpoint, of course, because it's right at my door. But when you look at the overall picture, I would say no. Because Northport is not the only area that you have to consider. There are considerations that you must give to the population, to your neighbors. We don't take the selfish viewpoint, put it at my doorstep. We would rather say, let's go community-wise, get the hospital going, so that, and located in such an area, at the central location, that it is accessible to the entire patient shed.
Dr.
You
Serese?
can see, Christine, where we're glad we went to Northport with that kind of broad point of view. We're very happy to have you as a sponsor of our tax-exempt bonds. And the attitude of both Mayor Gentle and the entire commission is one that recognizes the total need, that everybody has neighbors, and that it's the total health care picture that we're looking at and trying to ameliorate.
How close would the Lemon Bay site be to, say, Northport?
9.27 miles.
And how close would it be to a place like Rotunda West? This is another area I see here on the map.
You see these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles.
Oh, I see. That's what those numbers...
Yes, this is a concentric. These are concentric circles that give you an indication of the mileage from the center of our operation.
Have you discussed at all with the closest hospital presently in the area would be Venice Hospital? Have you
Yes.
discussed the possibility of a competitive hospital with the administration there?
Yes, indeed.
What's the
Naturally,
reaction?
because we intend to be good neighbors too. It doesn't matter to us who builds a hospital, so long as we have a hospital and we have it on time. And in the very beginning, about 2 years ago, when I began to think of hospitals and the need of hospitals in our area, I discussed this matter with various people informally connected with Venice Hospital. At that time, there was the proposition that Venice would come into this area and build a 50-bed satellite hospital. Since that time, it has been dropped as a project for several reasons. They have put out a terrific effort, I think, on their part to raise even a portion of the $6 million that they had in mind at that time for expansion. I think they've raised something like $2 million. It's a Herculean effort that they put out in this tight money market. So that I don't think they have the funds to go ahead with this. But I think there are other considerations too. They've realized that perhaps the people of the area want to do something on their own for themselves. For a variety of factors, the president of the Board of Trustees has advised the president of our Lemon Bay Hospital trustees that the project no longer exists. Now, in addition to that, I can assure you, and I'm sure they're ready to assure anybody, that there will be definitely a cooperative effort between the two institutions. Structured corporately, they are the same. Non-profit, private, voluntary, general medical and surgical facilities. Venice is now 156 beds. They know and we know that it is not going to be enough next year or even worse the year after. And for many years now, Venice, particularly during the expanding tourist season, is overcrowded. People are in the hallways, in the doctor's lounges, and only emergency cases are taken. And this can only get worse unless we build, and soon. And as I say, I don't care who owns the hospital, whether it's the county that is going to build it or whether it's ourselves. The thing I care about is that a facility come and be built, at least 100 beds to start, that it will attract the very much needed doctors, and that there be an understanding that this is for the entire region, not just Sarasota County, or not just any other particular reason, but for the whole medical service area. We will be a nonprofit hospital, and whether it's done as nonprofit or whether it's done by the county, we urge that it be done quickly, and we have 2 years of work that we have done to prepare for it. Our facility would not cost the taxpayers 1 penny. The county's facility would, of course, be a tax-supported hospital.
Dr. Miller, along the same line, do you think as a member of the Public Hospital Board you can address yourself to this question, and that is, do you think it's possible Memorial Hospital Board essentially could say, well, hey, this is a pretty good-looking program, it's not going to cost us anything. Perhaps since we haven't built on the site we have, this is the way to go. We'll back these people up and support them in every way we can in encouragement.
It's a possibility. Of course, I can't speak for the board. I can only speak for my own opinion. But if a facility is built and it doesn't cost the taxpayers of Sarasota County any money, and it does serve a need, and it makes it unnecessary for us to have to spend tax dollars for our proposed site in Northport, it would seem to me that that would be all for the good.
Do you think there's any indication that this might happen?
I think there's indications that it might, yes.
I am tempted to quote Abraham Lincoln, who said once that the function of government is to do for the people what they cannot do for themselves. And the converse is also true. If we can prove, and we have proven, that we can do it ourselves, as a taxpayer, I wouldn't want to spend tax money to do what can be done without incurring burdens on the tax treasury.
Let's talk about that.
All right.
You keep saying it's not going to be a tax burden. It's not going to cost the taxpayers anything. How will it be paid for?
Through the sponsorship of Mayor Gentle's city, Northport, the IRS has a regulation called 6320, which in essence encourages the building of health facilities in pockets of real need, such as this, where there is nothing, by endowing the financing vehicle of that institution with a tax-exempt status. In other words, Chris, if you were to buy a bond, insurance companies, mutual trust funds, banks, and they buy the bonds normally, but let's say if you were to buy that bond, and we pay you for the use of your money to build our hospital with 7.5% or 8%, that 7.5% is tax exempt, as opposed to you're making, let's see, prime rate is today about 11.5%, and you would then be quoted for conventional construction financing prime plus 3, prime plus 4%. You would be getting 13 or 14%, but you'd have to pay taxes on it. So we are a tax-exempt financed nonprofit hospital, and that's where we would get our money from guaranteed underwriters and brokerage houses, bond houses such as Merrill Lynch, Bache.
Sounds like a bargain to me.
You mean a tax burden?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. This is our point, and we've done 2 years of work, and we are absolutely convinced, and the map should make it clear, that we have the prime site to serve not just one city, as Mayor Gentle was talking about, but as she has said, the whole patient shed, the whole medical service area. We're ahead of the game. We've got an excellent site. We need doctors. We know we need a facility. I hope we will have the blessing of the county.
Well, what is the problem in that vein?
Well, we've surmounted all of the problems that are required. Water, sewer, certificate of need. We've gone through 6 meetings with the Comprehensive Health Planning Council and is now up in Tallahassee. Tallahassee has accepted their recommendation to approve our hospital pending proof of financing, which I think we have, and we have demonstrated that we have, so I think everything will be fine there. The one thing that is stopping us is this question of zoning. And the Planning Commission, the county, Sarasota Planning Commission recently turned us down, and again I go to this chart, because their sites actually end at this county line. In other words, they only look at that. And on the basis of that, they had some question about whether the site was proper. As for a facility, what traffic it would generate, or they had 3 alternatives, which we're going to be discussing, I think, later today before the county commissioners, where we go with our hat in hand to beg for zoning approval. But what we contend, and this is the basic point of contravention, is that when you play in a hospital facility, unlike some other kind of building, that the interests of hospital and medical men such as Dr. Miller transcend these boundary lines. We have what is known as a patient shed or medical service area. You can't find an injured child in Grove City and say, because you live in Charlotte County, we can't take care of you. Or an indigent patient out here in Charlotte County, or a child of an indigent family, and say, we can't take care of you because you're not in our tax picture. This is subservient to the basic principle of what a hospital's business is, which is life and death. I think that transcends the principle of what they call land use, by far. Do you agree?
I agree.
So what you're saying now is that the Sarasota County Planning Department or Board isn't happy with the site that you've chosen?
Yes, and I say they're not happy with the site because they are limited in their sites to Sarasota County. They don't look beyond the non-incorporated area of Sarasota County. We are begging them to look past that, and we will do so before the county commissioners, who have that kind of discretionary, broad point of view, to look beyond that and to see the need for the whole area regardless of which county it falls in. There is no difference, in our view, between an elderly person who has had a coronary and needs instant attention as to whether he lives in Charlotte or in Sarasota.
Have you, since you have run into problems in this light, have you discussed any of this with Charlotte County? Possibly looking for a site down there and doing the same thing?
Well, we've looked at sites down in Charlotte. For example, we went to the person. It's very hard to find who owns what land and whether it's available
I realize that.
in a large enough site to make a total medical complex so you attract the doctors and the hospital. We found a site about right here in Charlotte County, but it's so far distant from this confluence of roads, which is known in our area in Charlotte County as Whiskey Corners. It's a quaint name, but that's it. You see these roads all come here.
Well, what about someplace in Grove City or?
Well, then where would that put Northport Charlotte? Or how about up in Northport Charlotte where the county has a site, where would that put the people of Rotunda West? You see what I'm saying? But you've got to consider the whole area, and therefore it underscores, as far as we're concerned, that this is the prime site.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is what happens if the zoning doesn't go through and you're turned down?
We
Are the
will
people
continue.
behind Lemon Bay Hospital going to say, okay, we won't do anything?
No. No, you can't say that and have a social conscience. You have to try to continue to broaden the educational base on which the initial negative decision was made. And you have to go back and knock on that door again if you're worth your salt and you're serious, and we're serious. We have an urgent need down there. I live there. And I've had a child born that was born in Sarasota Memorial. And we went through 1 hour of agonizing traffic that felt like 10 hours. Well, no, you talk about the young people who need this kind of facility, and you've got to service these young people as well as the elderly people. And you can't let it go. You have to continue to try for what you know is right. And the more we're able to tell our story, the more I have found that people understand it, judge it as right, that our position is well taken, and they're coming on our side and want to tell those in government, we want this hospital.
Dr. Miller, should Lemon Bay be turned down in its zoning petitions, and the whole thing is sort of scotched, as it were? It's been obvious through the efforts of Dr. Serese, Mayor Gentle, and many other people that South Sarasota County and the communities therein are really interested in having a healthcare facility. Do you think the hospital board would be inclined to go on this initial impetus and build something down there, or to provide some kind of thing sooner than they had perhaps planned?
Perhaps so. We have initiated a study of the entire county. This is the third part of a study which includes Memorial Hospital itself and also the county. And I would hope that within the next 2 to 3 months that we'll have a report from our specialists in this field recommending to the board, or at least recommending to the committee, that something be done. And I would hope within a period of 5 or 6 months that we can make a decision one way or the other. If, as you say, this plan is scotched, I think that the very fact that it's gotten to this stage as far as Lemon Bay Hospital is concerned will give impetus to our board to at least seriously look into the situation. I think up to this point, I speak for myself, we really have not planned to have a facility in the South County, or at least it's been in the offing, but nothing solid has been done. And I think that within this next 6 months, we will come to some really concrete decision regarding South County, whether this is built or whether it's not.
Have we got time for me to just ask a question of Dr.
Sure.
Miller? Could you give us a timetable, since urgency is, time is a matter of urgency, as Mayor Gentle has pointed out. Could you give us a timetable as to when you think you, if you went ahead with this program, would have a 100-bed facility available for this entire area?
Well, knowing how government grinds slowly, I suspect that it would take about 4 years.
About 4 years.
I would think so.
And you would be 2 years away.
Well, we've done 2 years of work. We've done the work that they would have to do essentially. And yes, we can build this hospital easily within 2 years, now that we've done all the work, including financing and so forth, and with the added virtue that we would not be a tax-supported hospital, whereas I think you would be a tax-supported hospital if you went ahead with your 4-year program. And then wouldn't you also have some problems with regard to indigents if they came from Charlotte County and came to a tax-supported institution in Sarasota?
All right, that brings up a question
Yes.
I'd like to ask. You mentioned, for example, an obstetrical case,
Yes.
namely your own wife's.
Lovely
Will you
daughter.
have obstetrical section to the hospital? Because that's basically a money loser.
You're quite right. In hospital economics, that is. And I think someone asked me at the meeting the other day at the Public Hospital Board meeting, would Lemon Bay Hospital have a maternity ward? And I replied that in our phase 2, that is the beginning of our second 100-bed hospital, we definitely would. Because I don't care whether that maternity ward is a money maker or not, and it is not in any hospital. Venice, for example, doesn't have a maternity ward. We have got to ensure that that's provided, and that some of those services that a hospital has, which make a great deal of money, should be contributing to the maintenance of a good and ready maternity ward. As a
Excuse
matter
me.
of social conscience in the community.
Excuse
Yes.
me, we are absolutely out of time.
Oh,
You must go off to the county commission and do what you can to pursue the matter of the possibility of Lemon Bay
I trust
Hospital.
that means I go with all your blessing.
Indeed you do.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, and thanks for discussing this with me.
Thank you.
Good day.